ILA is a non-profit organization created in 2005 in Luxembourg with the motto of being the voice of governance. This is a huge program. ILA has more than 3,000 members in Luxembourg, and my role in these organizations is to act as board members with a dedicated role about certification and education programs of ILA, but also the lead of a working group which is acting on the CGO concept. To understand the concept of CGO, we first have maybe to jump a bit step behind for the governance. The governance is a concept which is already difficult to understand, and there are a lot of confusions around it. Governance is a mix of values and system. Values are the purpose and the expectation of each organization. This is generally defined at the level of the founders, the promoters, or the directors of the company. The system is all the things you will put in place to render the values, to transform them into reality. The system has three components. The first one is the structures. So you will set up in your companies different corporate bodies, just like board of directors, executive committee, risk committee, or investment committee. This structure will work together by using the procedures, and the procedures will be all the steps, all the things to be put in place, all the sequence of actions that you will run within the implementation of the work of the structures. But the third component is one that is very important to be taken into account. These are the behaviors, and the behaviors, we all know that each stakeholder in a company has his own behaviors and is first driven on his own interest. So it means that the system should enable to transform the values and the expectation into reality, but also take care of the personal behavior of each stakeholders. So that's the first thing, that governance is a concept that is complex at the beginning. But we noticed that governance during the last decades moved also in terms of complexity. If in the beginning of the organizations, generally the company were managed by the owners, so it means that we just need to set up a process with rules to be followed in order to accomplish the decision that has been taken by the management, that are also the same decision that would be taken by the founders. So the first phase of the governance was just to set up management rules. The second phase is that the company were not owned by the management itself due to the size, due to the capitalism evolution, whatever. So it means that the governance has been also, the role of the governance has been to control the actions of the management. So we added an additional slide. So we had the management rules, we have now the rules to control the management in each organization. Then the governance concept is not a concept that is quite old, it has more than 30 years. We see that the state took into consideration this concept because they see tools to control the organizations and to lead politics at the level of the economy. And so the states start to regulate the governance, and we see text about how to set up your governance, how to set up different roles in your organizations. So the state come inside the organizations to bring more complexity to the governance, because this has been constrained that you have to respect to comply with. And lastly, we see it now, this is a global trend, is that we have the fourth phase of the governance, which is to harmonize the governance. It means to harmonize the governance because we have higher objectives that are above the companies, that are society expectation, just like environment, social responsibility, that has to be taken by the organization. So it means that governance is becoming more and more and more complex in the running of the day-to-day. And it seems that having somebody taking care of the system part, animating it, is the right answer for the organization now to be able to face up the challenges of the futures. So the CGO's missions are on two sides. The first side is the governance. So the first side is to see, okay, we have a system of governance and we have to design it so that we stick with the expectation of the values of the organization. So it's important that the CGO design a system which is in compliance with the expectations and the values of the organization. You will have to design the system and to ensure that the system is efficient. That's the first role of the CGO. The second role will be to set up the second stairs of this system is to set up all the procedures with the different stakeholders. So it means you will have to collaborate to establish this system so that everybody understands it and can run it easily. So that's the second role, is to focus on the process. And focusing on the processes is also to determine a calendar to be fixed in the governance. So the rules are, we have a reiteration of the process, and the processes are running on a clear timing basis, the more efficient they will be. So that's a clear part of the job of the CGO. You will have for this system also to be the monitor of the system. So we should ensure that the system is running correctly. If you detect bottleneck, you will come back to his governance roles to say, okay, we'll have to set it up differently. The role of the CGO, as you can see on the governance side, is mainly an animator and a facilitator. So he will have to facilitate the running of the system of governance. The CGO will also have a second side on this job, which is the administrative side. It means that to keep the memory of the organization, it's important that the documentation has been correctly drafted. To comply with the regulation, this documentation should be also drafted. So he will play this role of administrative agent, just like the company secretary, as we know for the time being.
Right.
In addition, he will have ancillary roles that will be advising the board, advising the different stakeholders while they are running the system. So he will be there to anticipate the problem, to give solutions, or to find alternatives. And one of the roles, which is not a small one, is also to enable each person that is onboarding the system to understand it. So we will be the trainer of the new participant of the system. In terms of profile, we see that the competencies we're expecting from a CGO is wide, because it's not just limited to administrations. So rigor and organization will of course be a criteria for the CGO, because it's running exactly the same work than the company secretary in the past. But in addition to this, he will have strong communication skills, because he will have to facilitate and to animate the system. He will be also assertive, meaning that he should make a prioritization of the tasks to be performed in the organizations, so that the organization focus on the main things first and then ancillary afterwards. So he should be assertive, be able to detect what is essentials and non-essentials. He should be also, and this is totally different that from a company secretary, he should be also a leader. So meaning that he should also say no, stop the processes, give limitations to even person that have a higher level in the hierarchy in the organization. So he should be able to be himself playing an active role and to transmit the fact that he has sufficient authority to do it. Last but not least is the written expression. That is very important, because many of the things that will let after the decisions will be stored, and if the written skills are not there, of course we are lacking the information in the future. So it means that the CGO, in a nutshell, in terms of profile, should be a generalist, aware of a lot of problematics around the organizations, understanding it, not be a specialist of it, but be able to interact with the persons who are specialists around this area. So that's very important for me, that the CGO is and remains a generalist profile. It is not dedicated to lawyers or to economics. It's just behaviors to be adopted by a person. The CGO indeed in the Anglo-Saxon world is something that is more common. We have also in the EU some countries that have developed secretary of the board and so on, but we still remain at an administrative level. The role of the CGO, I think that in the future will evolve strongly, because the complexification of the governance should have an answer. Otherwise we have static organizations with no decision at all. So I think that in the future, we will progressively move from the company secretary to the CGO because it's a need to face up the challenges for each organization. In terms of helping this project, the role of ILA is first of all, of course, to build the new CGO. To build a new CGO, we established a program, an educational program, giving the technical skills necessary to the CGO to be a CGO. We have several steps in these programs, and it leads to certifications where ILA valid the certifications, the technical skills of a CGO. The second step we're working on is to qualify a CGO, because the CGO, as we see in the past, is not only a man knowing some specific technical skills, is behaviors. So we are working on the creation of an academic program with university, external providers, to create a behavior of CGO that will be the qualification level. So this is the contribution in terms of ILA in terms of building and validating the existing CGO community. What we will do also is that we all know that organizations generally react to regulation. So that's the reason why we are now starting communicating to authorities, governments, supervision authorities of the financial place to recognize the role of the CGO and to make the understanding that the CGO is a control, but a curative control, not a curative control as we could have for other functions, but a kind of Chinese medicine where he will be there to implement on a day-to-day basis the existing regulations efficiently and not to control afterwards if they have been correctly enacted by the organization. So we are working strongly now on a recognition program, and we are making the advertisement of the CGO function in Excel. For the benefit of an organization to have a CGO is quite easy to understand. So a CGO will animate the system, so will enable the company to take efficiently decisions. So it means a reduction of the cost, for sure. It will also enable the company to involve each stakeholder correctly in its system, meaning recognition, social recognition. And last but not least, it will also enable the company to take care of the society expectations. In a nutshell, the CGO is one of the main vectors of long-term added value for organizations.